I just change all my passwords to the word incorrect. So it always tells me when I get it wrong. Your password's incorrect. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Help me with hip-hop. Let's get it right. Protect your patience. Day and night. Donna and David, the experts on your side. Help me with hip-hop. Let's get it right.
All right, Donna, guess what?
What?
Less password drama is better security karma.
Ooh, I like the idea.
So last week you mentioned that we were going to go over some NIST password things and what it actually looks like to have a good password and some other things like that. You wanted to go over that. And there's some new things called password, what do they call them? Assurance levels.
Yeah, assurance level authentication assurance level.
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about that too. But before we get into that, you've got some interesting news that was sent our way. Apparently,
Yeah.
swatting is still a thing.
Yeah, shout out to Trina Bean, who interacts with us a good bit on social media. We appreciate your involvement and interesting story you sent. There's a couple different ones actually about, I don't know if we have this on, if you have it on your incident response plan, but we've asked about active shooter. We do a lot of that, but what if the call says there's an active shooter, but there's not an active shooter?
Yeah. All of a sudden you have a whole bunch of police showing up, or a SWAT team, which is why they call it swatting.
Yes.
But you have tons of emergency vehicles showing up, people running in. Where's he at? You're like, where's who?
Get down. Yeah, so
I mean,
2 different hospitals
wow.
in Orange County, California had swatting. And it diverts, when you think about criminals, active shooter anywhere, and divert them all to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So now I got everything all crammed up in there. And any of this where people do this to their enemies, they do it for fun. And that's just across the board evil behavior. When you do this is ridiculous. No one should do this to anybody.
Yeah.
But if you haven't thought about, I don't have any kind of active shooter, and most people are like, well, that's probably not going to happen. But the swatting calls, now it makes you really think about what's going to happen, because now the fact that you have that, all work's going to stop. And you don't want everybody to drop everything. Like we tell the story of the front desk person that in the first fire drill grabbed her purse and her phone and left all the patients sitting in.
Good luck.
That went well. He's like, deuces, I'm out.
Yep.
So you have to consider how you maintain privacy and control of the data, because you don't want to lose control of the data.
Mm-hmm.
And if everybody is taken by surprise, which you're going to be taken by surprise in these shooting situations, and domestic violence has caused this at several healthcare locations. But, as Trina pointed out, imagine you don't know whether you have that problem or not when this happens. So everything is much more complicated. And then they have to be sure, because they can't just say, oh, okay, we'll take your word for it, because look, how many times in the movies have we seen the bad guys make them say nice things so the cops will go away?
Yeah. Yeah. You still have to respond as if it is that thing. And then you also don't know, are they diverting law enforcement away from something else they're trying to do?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And having healthcare diverted. So now I'm going to mess up emergency response capability, because I'm actually going to do something horrible on the other side of town.
Yeah, like maybe steal something from the Louvre.
Or hurt people. But either way, it doesn't appear like anything else happened. It was just somebody determined to wreak havoc. and it shouldn't happen. So I hope they find who did it, and there's some consequences. I'm a big fan of consequences for your behavior, and I don't know about you, but we were both had consequences for our behavior our whole lives, and
only when I got caught.
yeah, in the end though, it was like, I don't trust you. I don't know what you've been doing, but I don't trust you because I know you've been doing something I hadn't caught. But yeah, and then as we age, we start to feel the impacts of all the things that we did. But anyway, shout out to Trina for bringing that up, because it's a really good point. Because it seems like these swatting cases occur more often than the active shooter would at a business, which is not a good thing, because the active shooter things are happening too often already. I mean, those aren't a great thing either. But to realize that when we say you need to worry about active shooter, you need to worry about swatting about a active shooter that you don't have.
Yep.
So, anyway, thanks for another good point, Trina. I appreciate your support.
Yep. Thank you, Trina. So if you've ever yelled at a website for telling you that your new password can't be your last password, even though it was 17 characters and it contained your firstborn's dental records and your dog's name and everything else.
That's right.
I think the rest of this episode is probably something you want to listen to.
Yeah, you might find it interesting. But people don't like passwords. I wonder why it took so long for others to come up with a solution to that problem.
Yeah. Well, it's like I've said before, you can always tell how many times they change their password by how many exclamation points they have at the end. just keep adding exclamation points.
Now, it's like our Monster Mash password 1 came out.
Or I've seen people, they'll have 2 passwords. So every time it says change it, if it doesn't block you from using history, then they'll just change it from password 1 to password 2, and then back to password 1, then back to password 2 over and over and over again.
Well, back when you had, not have to have 5 passwords that I would remember, or, 6 really, because you couldn't use the 5. And I would use a combination of nicknames I use for all of my 6 nephews in age order. But it's nicknames I use, and I don't put any of that on social media. And that's when I would have to keep up with them. That's what I would use. I don't do that anymore, so it's really easy for me to say it. But, that was what I would teach people. Look, I got 6 nephews. I have my own names and things that remind me of them. I don't use their names, but I have my things that remind me of them, and those are involved in that password. And then I just do them in that order. But that's the only way I can make my brain do it.
Yeah. But here's the part I see most people missing on passwords is even when they have a very good password, most people aren't making sure those passwords don't show up in a data breach.
Correct.
And if you're not doing that, some people call it dark web monitoring or scanning, password breach notification, whatever. It's all the same thing. If you're not doing that, though, then you're under the assumption that password is still good and still secure when it's actually not.
Right. It's in the list.
Yep. It's in the list.
Yeah. And the fact that we have so many passwords, and, I think if you pulled, every year they do the top 10 passwords that are exposed list. If you pull that for the last decade, it wouldn't change a lot.
No. Yeah.
So, and I think that's why, everybody's like, look, we have to get past this. And, for years, granted, we've been doing this for a decade, but we said passwords are going to be a necessary evil for a while. I finally believe we're going to get past them. I think it was a couple years ago we explained what FIDO was and why that was important, and you should watch and keep an eye on it. And here we are now, finally reaching the point where I am actively not using a password, but a passkey.
Mm-hmm.
and I love it.
Yeah.
So this new, it's the NIST. They're, what was it, like 2016? I want to say they came out and said use past phrases, not this complicated stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody went, huh? That's it. Nothing else happened.
I know. Nobody changed what they were doing. You still have people saying the same things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still see people talking about the old way that we used to do passwords. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you're right. Nothing changed. Nobody caught on to that's not what they're recommending anymore.
Yeah, we've been saying this, but trying to get people to understand that, and I've been teaching about it for years, but this is an update to that publication that takes it further and tries to break it down of where, how secure are we based on what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so they created this authentication assurance levels, which basically says, how sure am I that you are you? I know, a lot of days I look at you, David, and think, who are you?
Funny enough, I do that in the mornings when I look in the mirror.
Yeah, what happened to you? If we go back and look at our early pictures and video where you're now white-headed, and then you were not.
I know.
Yeah, it's gone.
It's highlights.
Give up the ghost. But if we say in any world, in the digital world anyway, that we have to operate in, okay, well, you have the password, so it's got to be you. That has gotten us into a boatload of trouble.
Right.
So then we added multi-factor authentication.
Mm-hmm.
And that improved things. However, didn't you just read about a data breach? And what was it that they said they had done in a response to the data breach? The 1 point something million.
Yeah. So this big, massive healthcare data breach, I'm sure we'll cover it maybe at some point. But
Yeah.
in the article, it was like, in response to the data breach, said entity has enforced multi-factor authentication. And I'm like, what? Like, that's like saying, in response to the security incident, we decided to use security. I mean,
And
you should have done that beforehand.
Well, and it's unfortunate because the number of times that we see it where we'll say, you need to do this, and they're like, yeah, leadership doesn't like it. I mean, we still deal with it. They don't like it. Okay, well, how are they going to like, the business hit you get with what's about to happen, when it does happen. So
yeah, it's not convenient. We talk about this often, but I mean, going through a data breach, you and I have done it for other people. It's very, very inconvenient.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's stressful for everybody. One of my jobs is to remain calm when everybody else is freaking out.
Well, I've never asked anybody that's gone through a data breach, if I were to say, would you have preferred the MFA getting in your way, or would you prefer the data breach getting in your way? Nobody's ever said, you know what, the data breach wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that all the time they saved by not doing the MFA didn't even shake a rattle
No.
at the time they used in the data breach. And so many of them, a proper MFA implementation would have prevented it. So, but we've got these AAL, another acronym, and I don't know how we're just gonna have to say AAL, which is then gonna make us get tongue tied.
Do you have Al?
Are you talking OWL? OWL? No. AAL, authentication assurance level. So we've got one. You gave me something. So I can just take a password and, one-time code, and now it's you.
Mm-hmm.
No. the not very helpful. So they're calling it basic assurances. I'm getting basic assurances, right? And then you get to stronger level 2. They're logical that way. They can go to 10. It's 2. Now it's 2-factor. So we're doing the MFA thing that we just talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's stronger. And then one would think when you get to AAL3, if you did basic and stronger, what do you think that it would be when they said what this one is?
Very strong.
Or strongest or something.
But
No.
no.
No, I don't know. But it is the highest level.
Yeah.
And so it is the highest level. And I mean, there's some really, we are oversimplifying this, trust me. But I wanted to make sure we'd thrown this stuff out here so that you have heard authentication assurance levels.
Yeah. You'll definitely be seeing that in insurance applications.
It's probably going to be, it'll creep in the weird place, and you'll be like, I know what it is. Those idiots taught me something.
Yeah. It's going to say, do you have AAL3? And you're going to be like, sure I do. What is that?
I know, right? So 2-factor, that's where you need to be today.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's been years since basic was acceptable for anything important. And, if it's just crap, it doesn't really matter a lot. But you got to be at least at level 2. Level 3 is phishing resistant with cryptographic authenticators like a FIDO hardware key, smart cards. So you're really getting above and beyond everything.
Mm-hmm.
That today, now we have them. People have had that capability with these keys. They're not as cool as like the FIDO ones, but having that hardware key is something I got to keep up with on top of my other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know whether they consider the duo thing where it just sends you a thing. Is that you? Yes. And then everything's authenticated. What level that falls in, I hadn't spent a lot of time figuring out where everything is.
Mm-hmm.
But we know we got to be at 2 or higher.
Right.
And of course, you match the risk level of the data that's behind the password, the information, the access controls that are behind the password. It should control what level it is. And again, though, it's down to what the vendors are going to let us do. But they have a whole appendix on passwords. And then, this is the same thing with an updated version. I think they added the authentication. I don't remember what they added, but this is the password, the appendix that's been there since we started talking about it. It's where they first came out and said, okay, we don't have to do the, complex with all the different special characters and numbers. And, you don't need that anymore. You just need something really long.
Mm-hmm.
I remember years ago, the cartoon XKCD and did a thing on password years ago about how hard it was to crack one that was just 4 random words. I think it was like horse, stapler. I don't remember what else. It was much harder to crack that than 8 characters that made no sense. And remember that? And now I got to go find it. But but no mandatory complexity, just 15 characters or more.
Yeah, but you still see vendors, who won't. They still enforce the complexity piece of it. So,
yep.
You still have to have 15 characters, for example, but they don't move away from the complexity piece. You still have to have the capital letter. You still have to have the special character.
Well, I even run into them where you can't have it more than 12. Those kill me.
Yes. Yeah, because
those are brutal.
you're probably like me. Most of mine are usually 24. I have some that are
depending on what it is.
16, but most of them are 24. And I'll admit now, if I have to type it in, it drives me nuts. Every once a year, I run into one. I had one time. I'll never forget this because I was ready to take myself out, and I had set up a 32 character passcode, and I had to enter it, and I had the hardest time getting it right. It's like,
okay, but have you ever, when you have one of those where you got to enter it, you go over to another system, change the password to something small, enter it in this thing over here, get authenticated, you go back, you change it over here, thinking you've beat the system? You know what happens when you go back to the other? It'll say you have a new password. You need to enter it. I saw something where I'm going to beat the system. No, not going to do that.
Yeah.
So, I've seen it though.
But for people that don't use password managers, I don't understand how you could possibly do it.
No,
you have to be putting in the same 2, 3, 4 passwords and everything. I think I don't even remember. I think at last count, I had 1,200 different passwords.
Yeah, I don't even. It's not good.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't even know I visited 1,200 different sites that needed passwords. But good grief.
Well, but that is the big thing of I don't know people who are like, no, I don't need a password manager. Now there are people that write it down in a book. And, I joke around about the book, but at least it's not online somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And, these days, I'm way more likely to lose something online, get it breached, than to have somebody break into the house, know where the book is, and take the book. That's more of a targeted attack. So, if that's all you got, okay, fine. But you can't be carrying that thing around in your purse.
Yeah.
No, don't do that. But it's certainly something that I'm thrilled if we can get the vendors to do it. But that's been the reason they came out with this years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's almost 10 years ago. They came out and said it's time for us to change this, and the vendors really haven't done it. So until the vendors do it, we can't implement it. And that's the worst part, so that you have no other choices. But I will tell you that once you can convert over and have these long, drawn-out things that you don't have to remember, it's great. But when somebody tries to tell me, especially if it's something I think should be more secure, that I can only use 12 characters, and it must have a number and an upper and lower case.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay. I'm not happy about giving you this, but okay. But the good news is that concept of just big long passwords, pass phrases, and pass keys. So they're calling it more like passwordless.
Right.
So what do you think of the ones who say, oh, it's passwordless? All you do is give us your email, and then we'll send you an email that you then go and log in with.
I mean, from a convenience perspective, it's fantastic. From a security perspective, it's like other things. If you aren't guarding your email inbox and access to it very well, then guess what? Now I can get in all kinds of stuff. But that's the inherent risk of email, period, which is why I tell people all the time, you should have your email locked down like Fort Knox. Like if you're not going to do anything else, your email account and your financial accounts should be the best passwords you could possibly come up with.
Yeah, and at least on them use the 2FA or MFA.
Yeah,
tools.
at the very least.
But yeah. And if they'll let you do more than 15, make it a big, long phrase. But they are pointing out that we should be able to have this 15 character long single factor authentication without complexity. But the only time we had to change it is there's evidence of compromise.
Right.
Which tells me I don't want to use that big 15 character long thing everywhere. Because if it's compromised, I got to go change it everywhere.
Yeah. This is a problem we ran into years and years ago when these things started happening. Because I don't know about you, but back in the early days of the internet, I absolutely used 3 passwords. It just, you could do it. And it wasn't that big of a deal. And then all of a sudden, one day, it's like, oh, guess what? Your password is breached and you need to go change it. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I use that password, almost everywhere. Now I got to go change that password everywhere. Whereas if I used a single password per site, when that one password gets breached, I just change that one password in that one site. So much easier to manage.
Yes. Yes, it is. And by using the password manager, all the sites where you use things.
Yeah.
So, you don't even know that if you don't use a password manager.
And the good thing about password managers, we could do a whole episode just that, and I'm sure we have already, but we can do it again. But the password manager can tell you if the complexity is good. It can do the breach notification for you in most cases. It'll give you a score showing, what's your overall security score. But it'll show you use this password in this many places. Or even if you only use it in 2 places, it'll say this password has been used somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So don't do that. But the password manager thing, again, if you're not using one, you need to use one. I don't see how you could possibly get around it.
Which brings us to the next piece about where we're going with passkeys and passwordless. Yes, the FIDO keys, the hardware keys, those kind of things. But the ability to build a passkey or passwordless login. And those are 2 different things, 2 different approaches.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want them to get too confused without us trying our best to explain. We always say that it's something you know and something you have is that multi-factor thing. And having a passwordless, you can authenticate in some other way, right? Passwordless means I'm using something. It could be you're going to email me something, or it could be a passkey, or it could be any of these things. So it's kind of like, a passkey is passwordless, but passwordless is not necessarily a passkey.
All right. Yeah.
It's kind of like all bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon.
Right. Well,
See?
if it's gonna send me something to my email address in order to authenticate me, there is an assumption that my email account is super strong password protected.
Yes.
And probably multi-factor authentication and everything else.
Mm-hmm. That is assuming, as we say. Assuming.
Mm-hmm.
But we know about that. But these passkeys, though, I'll tell you. So it's like you get the opportunity to set up a passkey. Now, Password Manager even remembers the passkey. And in some cases, depending on what you used, which is you got biometrics, you got hardware tokens, you got a variety of different things that can be used as the passkey.
Right.
So with, the face, fingerprint, I understand that eventually we could do an ear print, that those are unique.
Ear print.
But having the just tied to your computer, and Microsoft has gotten rid of their Authenticator app on logins for Windows stuff, right?
Yeah, they're phasing all that stuff out.
So that's just going to force people to do this and force vendors to do it.
Yeah, I mean, kind of on that same note, I'm reading that Microsoft is making it extremely difficult, if not impossible, to even get by having Windows without creating a Windows account. Used to you could bypass and create a local account during the installation. Now that's been removed, and I don't know how to do it. I don't know how they're going to do it moving forward. Somebody will figure it out.
Yeah.
But until then, they're forcing everybody to have even an authenticated Microsoft account just to install Windows.
Yeah, and there's everywhere you turn, everybody is wanting you to tie into one of those, the big ones, to prove you are who you are, and then when they decide you're not who you are, you're SOL.
You're right. You are right.
There's some movies about that. And you are not who you are. Yes, I am.
It's funny you should mention that, because every time I talk to my mom, and she's not tech savvy, but to talk to my mom, and I'll tell her about some kind of cybersecurity something, or an AI something, or quantum whatever, and no matter what I tell her, she's like, "I seen that movie." I'm like, you're not wrong. Like, all this stuff we talk about, it's like at some point it was in a movie in the past, and it's come true.
Yes. So, good news is, as you see passkeys coming up, embrace them, because they're going to get you out of the mess of constant passwords. But your passwords you make need to be big, long things, but they can be sentences.
Mm-hmm.
And NIST wants them to even like allow spaces, and don't limit the number. I think up to like 64 at least, wasn't it? It's a big, long thing that you could do.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, anyway, hope that they roll out these changes in important things like EHRs, so that we don't have to deal with this. But I know that, I've seen where there's some that still authenticate with 8-character codes.
Yeah.
And, because they know they weren't going to get anybody to enter anything longer.
Well, the challenge is going to be, instead of you using your dog's name, like Scruffy 123, people are going to say, my passphrase is, my dog's name is Scruffy.
That's right.
It's like, that wasn't much good.
My dog's name is Scruffy, and its birthday is October 27th, 2020. So okay, that would work. But yes, you're going to see crazy stuff like that, and my thing would be, what is my password for this site? That would be my password. What is my password for Help Me with HIPAA? There you go. That would be my password. What is my password for Help Me with HIPAA? But I don't think that'll work, because now you're duplicating somebody else's. And that starts to show up if you're using the same password as somebody else. It starts to show up, I think.
Yeah. See, I just changed all my passwords to the word incorrect, so it always tells me when I get it wrong. Your password's incorrect. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I love that joke where they were like, the hacker called me and said, I've stolen all your passwords. And I said, great, let me get a piece of paper so you can tell me what they are. It's funny. But for the big picture thing, the good news is, this is finally a thing that you should start asking about, right? You got to start asking, hey, send it in on vendor feedback pages. If you use an app and you're like, are you switching to passkeys anytime soon? Passwordless, which a passwordless approach, so that you have it with, I can just use Face ID. I can use my Windows Hello, whatever I'm using there, and pins on it, because that's all tied to, everything's tied together to something other than that website or that application.
Windows Hello. Why couldn't they just call it drapes? Just pull back the drapes.
I guess that's better than blinds.
Yeah. Let's stick with the whole Windows theme here.
Yeah, there you go. But drapes. How long you been holding on to that one?
It just popped in,
I was like, did he just? Yeah, he did say that. So anyway, the good news is, as NIST points out, they're trying to eliminate password fatigue and have stronger security at the same time without making it overly complicated. And, that's huge. That's the thing that we need is, you're not going to be able to ditch passwords. Not happening. We're going to have to find another way. And we've said that. But for the first time, it actually seems like, one of those moments where we're actually going to see a really annoying thing get better.
You're not talking about me, are you?
No.
Okay. Just double checking.
But, in that discussion on the password, when they finished in their conclusion about the password complexities, they said, length and complexity requirements beyond those recommended here significantly increase user frustration and the difficulty of using passwords. As a result, users often work around these restrictions counterproductively. Okay. Yes, we know that. And that is the statement that we need all of the technical people and the vendors to start focusing on. It's not secure the way you're doing it. There's too many problems. We've got to do better. And this credential theft is, crushing us.
Yep. That's true.
Yeah.
And,
So
just one more pitch for the password manager that is really cool for businesses is that if you have one that you can put all your employees in, even though you can't see their passwords, you can see when they have passwords that have been caught up in data breaches or they're using the same password in multiple places. It at least tells you that, like, hey, David's using a password in multiple places. All right, now you can go talk to him. Or David's using a password that's part of a data breach dictionary or something. So you can see all that if you have all of them in one of these password managers that gives you that capability.
Yes, that is correct. They're another value. So bring it.
All right.
There you go.
Anything else?
Probably not. But I just get lost in the thinking about stuff sometimes. Can't help it. But no, I don't have anything else to add at this moment on this topic.
All
you
right.
may progress.
That is our show for today. Thanks, folks. And be sure to share this out to somebody you know is using a password they should not be using. And if you don't know somebody, it's probably you. But anyway, catch us again next week. And until then, remember, HIPAA's not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.